For some time, there hasn't been a show on TV that has come as close to being as oddly perfect as Martha and Snoop's Potluck dinner party. On any given episode you might see Martha Stewart try on bling or Snoop crack a few weed jokes while making Cornish game hens. Street food goes global. If there's one thing that every culture has in common, it's a love of eating delicious food for little money. As food trucks and stands have proliferated across the United States during the past decade, many vendors are taking inspiration from low-cost snacks and street foods from around the globe, and customers are eating it up. Here are 29 of the tastiest and least expensive items you'll find in cities far and wide, many of which are now found on stateside streets. It was equal parts weird, educational, and hilarious. Prices gleaned from personal travel experience, friendly sources, and online reviews, all prices given in US dollar equivalences. Falafel, a cheap Middle Eastern delight. Falafel is well ingrained in the late-night culture of major American cities. A gangsta rapper pairing up with a grandmother and businesswoman might have seemed like a recipe destined for failure, but the opposite couldn't be more true. The show, with its rotating list of celebrity guests like Lil Yachty and Rick Ross, proved to be a ratings blockbuster and a hit with critics, even getting an Emmy nomination. Fried chickpea balls are stuffed into a pita pocket with a variety of toppings, from fresh cucumber and tomato to pickled cabbage and tahini, a creamy sesame seed sauce. Munch on this filling vegetarian meal for as little as $3, about the same price you'd pay in its original home. Best places to try it. Falafel shops are common in urban areas and Middle Eastern neighborhoods. Though the show ended after 2 seasons, there's nothing wrong with a lil nostalgia. Here's what you need to know about the very entertaining and one-of-a-kind cooking show that was Martha and Snoop's Potluck dinner party. Their friendship is real. The idea of a cooking show with co-hosts Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart sounds not just far-fetched, but absurd. After all, what could a gangster rapper and the domestic goddess have in common? Sure, they might be like oil and water on the surface, with decades between their ages and coming from completely different backgrounds, but their friendship is 100% genuine. The pair have had a strong fondness for one another since they first met when Snoop was a guest on Martha back in 2008. Over the years, their friendship has only grown and is what Snoop calls, a natural combination of love, peace, and harmony. Watch a single episode and it's immediately obvious that the two have great chemistry and enjoy one another. It's like they are a unit. Mao's, an international chain, can be found in Florida, Chicago, and New York. Torta. This classic Mexican sandwich combines avocado, jalapeños, mayonnaise, cheese, beans, and a choice of meat, all grilled to perfection. They exist. A large sandwich that easily passes for a meal, costs around $2 in Mexico. North of the border the price edges closer to $5. Best places to try it. The best Mexican food in the United States is often found within immigrant communities and along the West Coast. A lot of taco trucks offer tortas, and their chipotle-kissed cousin the semita, as well as the standard tacos, burritos and quesadillas. It's not fake. It's not put on, said Sallyanne Salsano, the producer of Martha and Snoop's Potluck dinner party. It's just what it is. That's why I think it feels so good, because you have two people that genuinely love each other and respect each other, for real. She thinks he's hot. Okay, let's get one thing clear, Snoop and Stewart are just friends. After all, there are about 3 decades of age difference between the two and Snoop is married. That's not to say that they don't admire each other's looks, though. When Stewart was asked if the pair's in the kitchen chemistry could ever bubble into more than a friendship, she quickly nixed any potential coupling up. Snoop is younger than my daughter. Stewart told Good Day New York. We have to have a professional relationship, don't we, Snoop? None of this means, however, that she can't admire Snoop for the dapper man that he is. He is very attractive. I must say, he really is an attractive human being, Stewart said. Everybody likes him. It's so nice that he's popular, and the guests really adore him and respond to him nicely. And he has a great sense of humor. If the two were a little closer in age and had met a few decades earlier when Stewart was a fashion model, who knows what could have blossomed. Snoops adds his own herbs. When Martha isn't looking, watching any sort of TV show with Snoop is going to bring with it a handful of weed references. Marijuana has been a trademark of the rapper's persona since the early 90s, and at this point, it's expected for him to drop a few cannabis one-liners. When you factor in marijuana-friendly guests like Seth Rogen and Wiz Khalifa, special herbs are bound to be a component in the cooking process. "I have herbs and spices that I use with my meals," Snoop told the Los Angeles Times. "And when Martha isn't looking, I sprinkle a little bit in her meals. So it's represented thoroughly on the show. Gotta have it." So is it possible that Martha Stewart ate edibles on the show? Well, that's anybody's guess, but don't expect to see her rolling a blunt with Snoop anytime soon. Snoop's always high on set. Saying that Snoop Dogg enjoys weed is as understated as saying that Michael Phelps is a good swimmer. The man isn't just playing a character either, he's very much the stoner buddy to his straight-laced sidekick and enjoys being high once the cameras start rolling. "He comes onto the set pretty high, and leaves pretty high," joked Stewart, before making sure to clarify that Snoop's not incompetent or incoherent at all. "That's the way he lives." Cooking under the influence seems to almost be a necessary ingredient for Snoop's style of cooking. How else would one come up with the idea to include potato chips and a dash of Colt 45 in a fried chicken recipe? "Sometimes I may smoke one blunt, sometimes I may smoke 100 blunts," Snoop explained. "For him it all comes down to, what's necessary for me to do what I'm doing." Faux shizzle. Martha admitted to a contact high. Martha Stewart might not start her day by toking up with Snoop, but that's not to say she hasn't come into contact with the stuff. Apparently, the smoke was sometimes so prominent on the set that it was impossible not to get a contact high from the stuff. "I get kind of high from secondary smoke," she told The Hollywood Reporter. "I'm not a smoker myself, but the smoke is quite thick around the set." Working with Snoop on the show wasn't the first time the rapper's enjoyment of marijuana rubbed off on Stewart either. During an interview on Late Night with Seth Meyers, she said that while sitting next to Snoop during the lengthy taping of Justin Bieber's Comedy Central roast, she also got a contact high. "I got high just sitting there," Stewart told Seth Meyers. "We had to sit on that stage for 4 hours, it took 4 hours to film that roast, and the secondary smoke is just as powerful as primary smoke. So I was totally high by the time I got up to that microphone." Snoop recounted the roast on The Howard Stern Show via Complex, and in his opinion, the secondhand high only improved her performance. "By the time she gets up there to tell her jokes, she's whacked out of her head, but she steals the F*******ing show," Snoop said. "She was loose as a goose, high as a mother and she went up there and killed it. She's not totally against marijuana edibles all right. So we've clarified that if Martha Stewart gets a secondhand smoke high, it's only by accident." Fair enough. So what about edibles then? With all that delicious food that Snoop and Stewart ate on the show, surely she was a little curious about indulging in a magic brownie or two, right? TMZ caught up with the show host and didn't hold back about asking her if she'd try any edibles. Stewart jokingly said she may try them, for scientific purposes. For now though, Stewart is more about making sure any brownies are baked properly. "She'll critique the brownies," Snoop told Jimmy Kimmel. "But she won't enjoy them. So maybe we won't see a Snoop and Martha's edibles line flooding the market anytime soon, but it sounds like Stewart's at least a little curious about the cannabis treats." The show does have pot in its title, so it's only natural that a little bit of the green stuff occasionally finds its way into whatever the pair is baking. Martha made Snoop drink. Snoop and Stewart might not be sharing spliffs, and they might not be sharing any plates of special brownies together, but that doesn't mean the two aren't celebrating their success, and come happy hour, Stewart is all about wetting her whistle. "He forces me to drink alcohol every day on the show with her," Snoop said in an interview with Jimmy Kimmel. The rapper doesn't seem to be fudging the truth either. So far, fans have seen the pair enjoy drinks on the show ranging from beer to champagne to Bloody Marys. The late-night host asked if Snoop wasn't a big drinker, and while the rapper admitted he's mostly given up the stuff, he obliges when he's offered a beverage from his co-host. "With her, I have to drink," said Snoop. "So Martha will get you a bit drunk, but it doesn't go the other way." Kimmel asked, before Snoop quipped back, "We're working on that." They both learned new skills. Martha and Snoop's potluck dinner party might have been more entertainment than educational, but that's not to say its stars didn't learn a few things. Both Stewart and Snoop constantly discovered new things about one another, both practical and completely trivial. Like any friendship, really. How many 70-something grandmothers with residences in East Hampton, New York, can say they've had a lesson in the meaning of all hood and Ball Till Ya Fall, from one of hip-hop's reigning icons. Not many, but Martha can. I've learned a lot about music from Snoop and our guests, Martha told The Washington Post. He's extremely knowledgeable, he's also very amusing. The education goes both ways, too. Snoop credits his friendship with her for helping him to refine his food etiquette and how to present a meal. Martha, you taught me preparation. The way you prepare a meal before you cook it and then, once it's done, how you prepare the table, said Snoop. The show's kitchen reflected Martha and Snoop's personalities because Martha and Snoop's potluck dinner party was unlike any other cooking show in the history of cooking shows. The kitchen was its own unique entity. This wasn't your standard TV set kitchen by any means, but it's a direct reflection of both Martha and Snoop's personalities. Stewart told Architectural Digest that the idea from the beginning was to have a split-personality kitchen, Snoop on his side of the space and Martha with hers. Each side was distinctly different. Snoop's was a laid-back purple motif with an array of specialty herbs in the background for him to pick and choose from. Stewart's was more traditional, with lots of copper cookware and white. As expected, both hosts appreciated the differences in style. Stewart loved Snoop's on-set bling, like his 24-karat gold measuring cup, and he was all about her faux bois wallpaper. Needless to say, there was nothing cookie-cutter about this kitchen. Snoop is actually a great cook. Followers of Martha Stewart know that she can cook like nobody's business, but what about the dogfather? If you ask Martha, he's very much capable of holding his own in the kitchen and brings a certain flair to his cooking that's all his own. I love his food, too, Stewart revealed in an interview with CBS. His Cornish game hens that he made yesterday were the best thing so far on this show. Snoop admitted that particular recipe came from his mother, but was quick to point out that working alongside Martha only made him more confident in the kitchen. She teaches me how to be a better chef, better prepared. You know, preparation is key 'cause I love to cook with love. It's that sort of loving appreciation that comes through when the pair work together. Martha taught me how to make a pizza, said Snoop. I'm talking about from scratch. Martha never went in Snoop's trailer. Martha and Snoop's potluck dinner party could almost function as a sociology study as viewers continuously got to watch two very different people explore and learn about each other's worlds. Weed may be a huge part of Snoop's world and persona, but that doesn't mean Stewart was hitting a spliff with the rapper. In fact, Stewart revealed in an interview that after agreeing to do the show, she said she'd steer clear of Snoop's personal space. I made a pact early on doing this show that I would never enter Snoop's domain, his trailer, said Stewart, before adding, all the guests go into his trailer, by the way. This doesn't mean that she's a prude when it comes to the vices that her co-star or guests of the show choose to partake in. So someone smokes marijuana? Big deal, said Stewart. I'm quite egalitarian and liberal when it comes to stuff like that. Snoop and Martha talked about doing a cookbook. If you're regularly watching the show and salivating over Martha Stewart and Snoop's creations while frantically jotting down how to make potato chip fried chicken, you're in luck. A cookbook from the duo could soon be on the way, although it probably won't contain any cannabis recipes. There's no shortage of cookbooks already on the market from celebrities, but who else is going to put out a cookbook that could potentially include both truffle pizza and pork chops with a malt liquor glaze? Nobody, that's who. We publish good, tested recipes, said Stewart. That's important to me. The show has proved that just about anything is possible with these two, so who knows what the future will hold. As Snoop might say though, we can all agree that a Snoop and Martha cookbook would be, off the hizzy. The show was a critical success. Few people would have predicted that a cooking show with Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart would work, let alone be a hit. That's exactly what the show has turned into though, and as we mentioned earlier, it even received an Emmy nomination. How many other shows with hip-hop royalty and millionaire grandmothers can lay claim to that? Obviously none, considering it's the only show of its kind. The recipes aren't the only thing that's fresh on the show. It has an almost unheard of 100% fresh rating, with critics on Rotten Tomatoes and fans have voted it a solid 7.1 on IMDb. Stewart gives credit to her co-host in helping to create the show's success.
Snoop works extremely hard, sticks to what he knows, and has perfected his areas of expertise, she told Forbes. The show may only got 2 seasons, but considering that each episode was more revealing than the last, like when we found out Martha partied at Studio 54, it was quite a wild ride. The show was a bridge to bring people together. Food and music have a way of bringing people together, so it's only natural that a show featuring one of the biggest characters in music and one of the biggest personalities in food would be a winning platform. Snoop and Martha Stewart were arguably one of the most lovable and oddest couples on TV, and their show was a standout example of unifying people from different backgrounds. It's the underlying message that we're not all that different that Stewart said she loved about the show. "Well, I think that cultures can clash, and cultures can actually meld," she said. "We all want to know things, we all want to know what's good, food, lifestyle, setting a table, making a drink." Guests on the show like Post Malone and Fat Joe might not have all that much in common with Stewart on the surface, but everyone seemed to have a good time, and Stewart readily admitted that the show pulled her outside of her bubble. "I'm wearing bling. I never wear bling.